The other day, my little girl crawled up onto my lap, looked up to me, and said, "Mommy, when is this virus going to be over?" I think it was at that moment I realized that these kids are going through a lot during this pandemic. Their world changed in a second as well. I spoke with family law mediator Dr. Behrooz Bernous about what kids are feeling during this time and how they are learning by watching us. We are back with Dr. Bernous again. I will be the first to admit the struggle that I have the most in this house is all of a sudden managing 4 little children, which we already did, but it's like somebody pulled the tablecloth right underneath me and said, okay, they're not going to go to school anymore. You've just become their teacher and you became everything. And here you go, have your kids in the house all day. Dr. Bernous, help.
Well, let me first remind your viewers of what we had talked about before. In my opinion, and many mental health professionals' opinion, parenting is perhaps one of the most, if not the most difficult task there is. But we can never be completely prepared for it. Now, during the pandemic, right, this task even becomes more difficult because now you have 1 or up to 4 or 5 children at home who can't go to school, who don't have their normal outlets of spending their energy and being able to interact with each other and play and be outside. Now they're staying at home and dealing with parents 24/7. This is not the norm they're used to, right? So parenting being difficult because, children, while they're very resilient, they're also very vulnerable to stressors from both inside and from outside. Their task is far more difficult during this pandemic because, number one, parents have to be able to first contain their own reactions and process their own feelings towards this disaster, this pandemic, but also be able to help their children understand, to the extent they can understand, what is going on outside in the world and why they're not able to go to school, they're not able to go to the park or to the beach and so forth and so on. Their normal activities are put on hold. So this task is a rather delicate and difficult one. And so I'll stop at this and see what your next question is.
Yeah, because I think depending on the age of the child, a parent would be dealing with different challenges. The older the child and teenagers, I don't have any, but I have heard it is quite difficult because they're used to socializing and being with their friends. In some ways, I always considered myself to be lucky because my kids are little and there's 4 of them, so they have each other to play. And I thought, you know what? They're handling this pretty well. They're at home and they're playing and they don't have to get up in the stress of going to school anymore. But I think that there were also these moments of the little things that they said that made me stop as a mom and saying, wait a minute, what is going on in their little brains? What are they understanding about what's happening? And what is the stress that they're experiencing? If me as a grown-up has this stress, it can't be all smiles and giggles for them. What is an average, typical, healthy child, Dr. Bernous, experiencing during this time, despite that they're smiling and playing?
You brought up an important point, and that is the age differences, right? The younger the child is, the less capable he or she is of understanding such a difficult and complex concept. What is a pandemic? Why can't I go out? The older they are, the better they are able to understand. But at the same time, the older they are, the more energy they have, the more they wish to go out and interact. And you have to explain to them why they cannot do their usual activities. As you will recall, we talked about one of the primary tasks of a mother, and of course the father too as well, is to be a good container, to create what we call a holding environment, an environment in which a child can understand the world and process it, okay? And their limited skills, they have a harder time understanding what's going on. But children are no different than adults. They do care about stability, consistency, and predictability, as we talked in the first part of this interview, right? So what children in general wish to have to be predictable and stable. And parents are the primary people who make sure that their lives are as predictable, as stable as they can be. So during the pandemic, one of the main tasks is to provide children, regardless of their age, is to provide them with support, love, understanding, empathy, and reassurance.
But how do you do that, Dr. Bernous, if a parent itself and the grown-up itself is already dealing with uncertainty, stress, anxiety? Do you almost fake it with the kids and make it seem like it's okay in front of them, and then as a grown-up you worry behind closed doors?
No, I would rather see couples not fake it, because then we're giving them a false image, a wrong image, an ideal image. It's like creating a perfect home life. There is no such thing as a perfect home, right? But as we talked before about a healthy couple versus a couple who is in a troubled relationship, right? The healthy couple is much better able, if they happen to have children, much better able to contain and process their own feelings and be real at the same time and help their children understand what is going on and give them the assurance that we're making sure that you are okay and we're going to get through this together. And that we can actually get through a crisis, they transform like no other time. So to answer your question, I would say, don't give them a false image of no, everything is okay, nothing to worry about. No, because that's not realistic. Because we need to prepare our children for future and dealing with stresses anyway. Hopefully we won't have another pandemic for many more years to come, but they need to be prepared to deal with challenges, frustrations, difficult circumstances, right? So by observing you and your husband, for example, your children would learn how to cope with stressors, right? So there is no specific guideline of how to do this, but as I said, healthy people generally intuitively know how to deal with stress and how to help their children deal with stress.
I'm glad you bring this up because I think it's a good reminder for parents who are watching and listening right now, is that our kids, their eyeballs are always on us, and they are watching us even when we think that they are not. And you know, how we react. I give an example. The other day, I needed to go out and do a little grocery shopping, and my 3-year-old daughter comes running out after me and says, "Mommy, don't leave. There's a virus out there, and I don't want you to get the virus. And don't forget your mask." And here we've really had a minimal, because she's 3, really haven't had a big conversation with her. She understands that she's not going to school virus, but how much she has absorbed and heard from her brothers and from what my husband and I are doing, that they are always watching, and we're teaching them how to react to stress.
Absolutely. Parents are often surprised how much their children understand. In other words, we think they're young and they don't understand things, or if we argue and if we have conflicts, they're just busy playing their video games, right? Or they're busy reading a book. No, they're very attentive. They have to, by the nature of their sense of powerlessness, they have to pay attention to their surroundings. They watch, they observe, and they learn. So as we have talked about this before, when they see mom and dad able to work through a conflict, a disagreement, they learn to do the same thing. So if the two of them are having problems, hopefully they learn how to resolve their own conflicts. Not exactly like parents do, but they're learning from it. So if your daughter has seen through the social media, to television, or by seeing either one of you to go out of the house wearing a mask, she understands things going on, and then therefore rushes to tell you, "Mom, where's your mask? Be careful." So they do understand a lot more than we give them credit, okay? But we still have the task of helping them understand, help make this book more digestible, more understandable, using their language, the language they are capable of understanding it, depending upon their.
Parents will do what we can. We are doing the best that we can. But I am curious, as somebody who understands the whole psychological aspect of this more than the average person does, Dr. Bernous, what will be the, and correct me if my words are not right in this sentence, will there be a psychological damage to our children of this generation coming out of this pandemic? Or will they be okay, fast forward 1 year, that they may just, a year of their life was different and they're going to recover fine?
that depends upon what parents do during this crisis. So if we rely on what I often call them healthy and adaptive coping strategies themselves to cope with the stressor. For example, you enjoy music, playing a musical instrument or listening to it. If you are artistic, if you are into exercising, if you are into reading and writing, you would be able to use similar methods to help your children cope with this. So not only they survive, they actually, again, they transform, they learn to develop additional skills that hopefully they can use in the future with no pandemic around, right? As we said, people who are able to survive this pandemic, they will transform. People will be more health conscious, they appreciate their health more, they will pay attention more to what they need to do on a day-to-day basis. Earlier, we were talking about how a couple can step up and step in to help each other, right? Not with a family with children. For example, if you are having a difficult day with your 4 children, your husband needs to step in and step up to come take over some of the tasks, okay? If you're not handling them as well as you normally do, he needs to step in, give you a break, and then he says, mommy needs rest. So why don't we now sit here and play a board game? Or you're back, let's go play some basketball, right? And vice versa. If your husband is worried about his company, his business, finances, managing this or that, you step up and you say, honey, why don't you take care of that and I'll take care of the children. So this not only allows the two of you to manage your family life, but it's also helping your children learn how to deal with stressful situation, how to collaborate and to cooperate. You have 4 of them. I'm sure you've seen episodes that they actually help each other. They protect one another. The older one can protect the younger one, right? And so by doing this, they're also learning to how to cope with the stress. Would there be a long-term effect? Unfortunately, yes. In rare cases, it can actually for a while result in paranoia and phobia. People may be afraid of going out, may be afraid of sitting next to someone at the stadium or go to a concert, right? So children may also for a while be anxious about going back to school, playing with other kids. And this is where parents come in and say, honey, I remember that during that time, we did ask you to keep a distance, but now things are okay. Things are back to normal. But yeah, we still wash our hands after we play, and we take our shoes off before we walk into the house, or so forth and so on. So these long-term effects gradually will dissipate and will go away, again, depending upon parents' attitudes and the society's attitude at large.
What would be your advice to parents, families, everyone right now, as we are realizing more and more that this is our new normal and we need to adjust to a new way of life for some time, something that most of us have never seen in our lives? What would be your big advice, Dr. Bernous, to families?
Well, I would say that not to forget the purpose and the reason why they're together from the beginning. Why they got married, because they loved each other. Why they decided to have children, because they loved it, they wanted to extend their family, right? And rely on healthy coping mechanisms, healthy means of dealing with stress. As I mentioned already, art, music, staying in touch via social and virtual means, right? And one thing that I do suggest strongly, as we already see happening in the world, unlike any time before that I can remember, is people volunteering, people being more altruistic than ever before. They go help their neighbors. They buy groceries and they deliver to the elderly woman who lives next to them, right? This type of going from being self-centered to being concerned and caring for other people, right? Actually help people go from a sense of powerlessness and helplessness, which is common during the pandemic, to feeling empowered, that I actually have something of value to offer. By simply maybe taking maybe a couple of boxes of tissues to my next door neighbor. If your children feel at home, they're able to help you with the dishes, with setting up the table, right? it helps them overcome their feelings of helplessness because they're actually empowered by being able to do something. So that those basic things can go a long way.
Dr. Bernous, thank you for your advice. We look forward to when this will all be over.
We all do, and thank you so much for having me.
You've been listening to It Is What It Is with Shali Zomarodi. You can join in and ask your questions live on Shali's Facebook or Instagram page. You can find so much more by following Shali on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and by visiting shalz.com.